All right. Good morning, everybody, again. The notes, as usual, are out there for anybody who wants them, as well as online. Shabbat Shalom to everybody that is watching us online. You guys ready? All right. Our opening verse for this morning comes from the Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 20 and verses 1 through 5, and it says the following. For the kingdom of heaven is like a man, a householder who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. And when he had agreed with the workers for a denarius a day, he sent them to his vineyard. And he went out about the third hour, and he saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And he said to them, "You too go into the vineyard, and whatever is right I shall give you." And they went. And having gone out again about the 6th and the 9th hour, he did likewise. For a few moments this morning, the title and the topic of the message is the 3rd to the 9th hour. The 3rd to the 9th hour. I know you guys know the prayer here. Say it with me out loud. If you're at home, please say it with us. Abba, give us eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart that is willing to obey. In the Master's name, amen. Amen. Okay, so this morning, again, just a very different thought than we've been following. We're going to follow up this upcoming Wednesday with the second part to our Daniel's 70 weeks. I really, really want to encourage everybody to join us for that on Wednesday night. I'm telling you, you're going to see Daniel in a whole different light. I've seen Daniel in a whole different light than perhaps ever before, and so it'll be a good study. We certainly invite you to that on Wednesday at 7:30. But for this morning, something different. I felt I've been checking out the parables lately and looking at all of them and, just reviewing them again. And this parable kind of always got to me. I mean, I've always understood what this parable was about. And even though I understood the general content of the parable, there were lots of parts of this parable that I was like, well, I don't know, why is he doing that? This is the parable, of course, of the vineyard workers. And at the end, the workers who were in the beginning are very, very unhappy with the workers who came at the end because they all get paid the same amount of money. And yet the workers in the beginning, they worked all day long. And of course, the workers at the end only worked an hour or two. So this is called the parable of the vineyard. What I want to do is I want to read the rest of it. The first couple of verses were just the beginning of that parable, where, of course, it says that he goes out and he makes a contract with workers to go out and to work in his vineyard. Of course, this is what the kingdom of heaven is like. This is the parables. He's giving us an example, an earthly example that tells us a much, much bigger story, like every other parable. And so he makes a contract, or the parable tells us that the owner of the vineyard makes a contract with people to go out and to work into his vineyard for a particular price, a particular salary. In this case, it says 1 denarius, whatever the value of that is, the 1 denarius, which is probably what the equivalent of 1 day's work. In that day, in those days anyway, when you worked, it was customary for you after your day's work to receive your day's pay. It wasn't like today where you got to wait 2 weeks or a week and then get your check and then have government take half of it and then you come home with your piece. In that day, it was whatever you worked for the day. It was customary. In fact, it was probably required that you receive that at the end of that day. This is a day's wage. So the vineyard owner offers them a day's wage. They go out and they begin their working. Then it tells us that about the 3rd hour of the day, he goes out and he finds more workers. He needs more workers in the vineyard, and he brings them in. And what he tells them is, come work, and I'll give you what I'll in fact, let me just not speculate here. He says to them, you two go out to the vineyard, and whatever is right, I shall give you. So if he's going out the third hour, they've missed a little bit of time of work. And then it tells us he does this again in the 6th hour, and then he does it again in the 9th hour. But that's not the end of the parable, because here is verse 6. It's up on the screen, number 3 on your notes. So after the 9th hour, it says, and about the 11th hour, having gone out, he found others standing idle and said to them, why do you stand here idle all day? They said to him, because no one hired us. He said to them, you too go into the vineyard, and whatever is right you shall receive. And when evening came, the master of the vineyard said to his manager, call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last to the first. And when those who came who were hired about the 11th hour, so between the 10th, the 11th hour, they each received a denarius, which was the original contract. And when the first came, they thought they would receive more. But they too received each a silver piece. And when they received it, they grumbled against the householder, saying, the last have worked only 1 hour, and you made them equal to us and who have borne the burden and the heat of the day. But he answering said to them, friend, I do you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius, a contract? Take yours and go. But I wish to give to this last man as also to you. Is it not right for me to do what I wish with my own? Or is your eye evil because I am good? Thus the last shall be first, and the first last. For many are called, but few are chosen. Now this should be a familiar parable to us. We've talked about this before. And that verse, the first shall be last shall be first, we hear that quoted all the time. It also appears later on in the parable of the wedding feast. The master again says this. Just before we jump into this, just remember that a parable is not an all-encompassing teaching. It's impossible to cover everything about the kingdom of God in one parable. So each parable really touches on specific things. And that's why there are multiple parables for us to read, because there are multiple dimensions to the kingdom of heaven. So just because we read one and we understand one, that doesn't mean that's all the information there is about the kingdom of heaven. There are other aspects. And so here in this parable, we're going to cover some really important things, but it's not going to cover everything. It's not going to tell us everything about the kingdom of heaven, but what it does tell us about the kingdom of heaven is very important and actually amazing. It's very, very amazing. Before we jump into this, and I know this doesn't come out on your notes. I don't know, my iPad froze here for a second. I think I need technical help, PM. Is it my finger? There we go. I guess it's my finger. I got the technical help. I want you guys to notice something up there. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger for me to see. On the screen that's up above us, let me turn it this way, maybe this will do it for me. Maybe I do need some help here, Pastor Matt. I want to make this bigger. There we go. I figured it out. I got technical help. Amen. All right. So I want you to see something up on the screen there. I've got a chart, a chart of time, a chart of measurement. Let's see if maybe I can do it this way. And on the chart is an explanation of how time is measured. So when we read this parable, it's important for us to understand what the first hour is, what the second hour is, third hour, so forth and so on. And I'm sorry, I really should have made this bigger for everybody. so that you guys can see it because I can hardly see it myself. PM, I think your iPad is broken, son. I think I do need your help, brother. All right, I guess that's about as big as I can get it. I'll look up here on the screen, and thankfully, hopefully, I didn't even bring my glasses with me. Guys, I am just batting 1,000 today. Now I'm starting to sweat up here. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. All right. On the screen behind me is a chart, and I absolutely do need my glasses to see that. There is no way on earth I could see it. Can somebody check in the office and see if my glasses are back there, if anybody's back there? I'd appreciate that, guys. I can barely see you guys in the pews, to be honest with you. I can see Sister Laura, that's about it. After the second row, you guys all just become blurry. I think I probably left it on the desk. I hope I left it on the desk. Thank you so much, dear. Ah, you didn't bring me my sunglasses? Okay, here we go. Okay, I could see that, sort of see that. Anyway, it doesn't even come out that good on there. Chapter 11 and verse 9 of the Gospel of John says, this is the whole healing of Lazarus, just before they get to Lazarus. There's the whole healing of Lazarus, and they're concerned about going back to Judea, where Lazarus is, because the Pharisees wanted to kill him. And the master goes into a conversation with them. And part of the conversation that's relevant to what we're talking about, he says the following. Yeshua answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. Now, he says this to say to them, we're going to go to Jerusalem. We're going to go back to Jerusalem. We're going to go back to Judea. If we're walking in the daytime, we've got nothing to worry about. It's not going to happen yet. They're not going to take him yet. Of course, that is going to happen. But what I want you to realize is he says, is there not 12 hours in a day and 12 hours in a night? Now, technically speaking, he's not really speaking about when the sun rises and the sun sets. This is not about the measurement of daytime versus nighttime. This is the measurement of work, of how long it is in a 24-hour period that men should work. And so that's what the division is here. So he says, because the only time in an entire year where there is 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of nighttime, in fact, there really isn't any time at all in the year. The closest we get to it is the spring equinox and the fall equinox. And it's not exactly 12 hours, it's a little bit off, but that's the closest we get to it, as about the same amount of light hours in a day as about the same amount of dark hours in a day. But that's not what he's referring to here. He's referring to work. And so the concept of the idea is that in a day, in a work day, there are 12 hours in which to do your work. And then and at the time that you're off, in a nighttime, there are 12 hours of rest. 12 hours to eat, to do whatever it is, go to sleep, wake up the next day, and then you start it all over again. So we're talking about a 24-hour day. That's the context to which he's saying this. And I'm sorry for the way that appears. What I'll do is I'll print this out for you guys so you guys can get that a little bit later. But let me explain it to you. Within an entire day, and I know it's a little bit hard to see up there, from 6 p.m., that is the evening. Because remember, the day starts in the evening. It was evening and it was morning the first day. So that the way that a biblical day starts is very different from ours, because for us, a day starts at 12 a.m. in the morning. While you're sleeping, the next day comes. That's not how it is in the way Abba measures time. The way Abba measures time, or is given for us to measure time, is that it begins in the evening. Your work begins, the next day begins in the evening. So at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., so that's from 6 to 7, 1 hour, 7 to 8, 2 hours, 8 to 9, 3. 3 hours are in the first part or the first watch of the night. That's what the top is. It's nighttime. The bottom is daytime. So from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., or really from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. is the first watch of the night. There's 4 watches in a night. Even today in the military, if you ever watch shows about the Navy, somebody has the first watch and the second watch and the third watch and the fourth watch. It's very same concept. So in a night, the second watch is from 9 to 12 a.m. to us, because on top in the green is how we would measure time. It's the Gregorian way of measuring time, a.m., p.m. That's very, very different. But technically, from 9 to 12, so from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, another 3 hours would be your second watch. Then from 12 to 3 a.m. would be the next watch or the third watch. And then, of course, from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. is the fourth watch. And as soon as it hits 6 a.m., what is it now? Time to work. Your work day starts. 12 hours of night or 12 hours of no work. Now your day starts. And so on the bottom, the day is from very, very similar in the numbers, but now we're talking from our Gregorian way of thinking. From 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. is the first watch, but it's not just called the first watch. 6 a.m. is also called the first hour. The first hour. And of course, in the first watch, there's 3 hours. Then, just like it was up on top, from 9 to 12 is the second watch, but it is also called the third hour, because you've got from 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9 in your first watch. Now you've got 9 to 10. That begins the third hour. It's the third hour. Is everybody with me so far? 9 o'clock starts the third hour. So yes, there's a 9 in the previous one, but that's when it begins. There's a switch over from one watch to the other. So every watch has 3 hours in it. So from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. is the first hour. From 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. is the third hour. From 12 to 3 is the third hour. And from 3 to 6 would be the sixth hour. From 3 to 6 would be the ninth hour. Is everybody with me? Did I not confuse everybody? I confused you. Okay. One more time. An entire 12-hour period is broken up into 4 sections. The 4 sections are called watches, but the first hour of each section is called the hour, or the number by which it is. 6 a.m. is the first hour. 9 a.m. is the third hour. 12 a.m. is the sixth hour. And 3 p.m. is the ninth hour. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I don't know how to explain it any simpler than that. So when you say first hour from a biblical context, you mean 6 in the morning. When you say third hour in a biblical context, you mean 9 a.m. When you say sixth hour, you mean 12 o'clock in the afternoon. When you say ninth hour, you mean 3 o'clock in the afternoon. No, there's obviously other hours that have gone by, but that's just the general way of referring to it. So if I say I'm going to meet you in the in the third hour of the day, I mean I'm going to meet you at 9 o'clock in the morning. If I say I'm going to meet you in the ninth hour of the day, it means I'm going to meet you at 3 o'clock. Like military time. Why do we use military time? Why can't you just say 12 o'clock instead of 2,400 hours? Why can't you do that? Oh, because that's what you do. That's what they did. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Because you need to know this to understand this parable. Because it says he made a contract with them before, in the morning, at the first hour, he made a contract with people to come and work in the vineyard. So that means he made a contract with people between 6 a.m. or 8:59. He made a contract with people. They went out, they began working. Then the second hour comes, which is actually 9 a.m., and there's people that are just, hanging around Home Depot doing nothing. They said, hey, you guys want to work? come on with me and I'll pay you what is fair. So he brings them to the vineyard and he pays them. That was between 9 o'clock and 11:59. And then about the sixth hour, between 12 and 3, he goes out again. And then again around 3 o'clock, he goes out again, all the way to the 12th hour, which is actually, if you think about it, the 12th hour after the 9th hour, which look at me down there, the 9th hour, which is 3 to 6, at the last 2 hours of the day, because the day, they're breaking it up into 3-hour periods, calling a 3-hour period 1 hour, calling a 3-hour period the 3rd hour, calling a 3-hour period the 4th hour, calling a 3-hour period, get everybody with me? But really, each hour is an hour too, so we're kind of being confused in our own language. So at the end of at least the parable we've read so far, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he goes out to go get people. 3 o'clock in the afternoon is called the 4th watch, but it's called the 9th hour. So in a 24-hour period or 12 hours of daylight, how many actual hours are left? 2. That's 12. So at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he goes out and he finds people that have been idle, and he tells them to come on in. But then he also does it the last 2 hours of sunlight or daylight. There's only 2 hours left. I hope that helps everybody understand. I hope it does. There is no 12 hours of sunlight, 12 hours of daylight. The next on your notes there is number 5. Matthew 20, verse 8, it says, when evening came. So they worked an entire 12 hours. 12 hours, which is actually 4 watches. Or it is broken up into 1, 3, 6, 9. Everybody with me so far? I know math is not what you want to do on a Shabbat morning. I get it. It's supposed to be a day of rest, and everybody's thinking about this stuff. So Matthew chapter 20 says, so when evening came, which means it's past 3 p.m. because the 4th watch, or the 3rd hour, is between 3 and 6 p.m. The day work is over. Evening is coming. It's about to get dark. So what do you got to do? You got to pay your workers. You got to pay your workers. Very simple. So chapter 20, verse 8, it says, and when evening came, which if you remember, John chapter 11, the master said, we work during the day. Are there not 12 hours to work? So when evening came, when no man works, the master of the vineyard said to his manager, call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last to the first. And when those came who were hired about the 11th hour, they each received a denarius. So the people that came the last hour, the last 2 hours of the day of work, got paid the same as the people who were there for the previous 10 hours, for the previous 9 hours, for the previous 6 hours. They all got paid. And of course, the people that were there the longest were a little upset. They're thinking, we should get a little bit more. I mean, if they're going to get paid a denarius, I got to get paid more. I've been working longer. Everybody with me so far? Okay. All right. I'm getting a headache up here. Okay. Number 6. Number 6 on your notes. In the 1st hour, that means at 6 o'clock in the morning, the owner went out there looking for guys to come work in the vineyard. When he found them, he made a contract with them. He said, okay, I'll give you a denarius. You work all day, and at the end of the day, you're going to get a day's wage. Fair. In that 1st hour, I want you to think about this for a second, he made a contract with them. But this is about the kingdom of heaven. This isn't about working in a vineyard. This is just a parable. So in the 1st hour, what he's really talking about is not a contract. He's talking about a covenant. Because what's a covenant, technically? It's a contract. It's an agreement between two parties. But normally, the difference between a covenant and a contract is there's normally something dies, there's bloodshed, and if we break this contract, what happens to this animal happens to us. That's the whole idea of a covenant, a brit, a cutting. So in the first hour, he made a contract with them, and people came out. Now, aside from the chart of all the hours, I want you to expand your spiritual thinking. Forget about the hours for a second. Even though it is a timeline, it's about the kingdom. It's about how we got to this point where Messiah is now. In the early part of the story, the one who owns the vineyard, and while the vineyard is Israel, the whole vineyard is really the planet. The owner of the vineyard made a contract with workers for a particular payment at the end of the contract. Here's Genesis chapter 12 and verse 3. Here is the contract spoken to Abraham. That was from verses 1 through like 5 or 6, so this is just verse 3. He says to Abraham, leave Haran, leave the Chaldees, leave Babylon, go to a land that I will show you, and I will bless you, and I'll make your name great, and I'm going to, those who bless you, I'll bless, those who curse you, I'll curse. And then he says this, and I shall bless those who bless you, and curse those who curse you, and in you all the clans, or all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. That is the contract. That is the promise. That was made at 6 in the morning on this big eternal thing that we're looking at called the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God. Abba made a contract that's going to affect everybody else from that point on who comes to live in the or work in the vineyard. Even though we all may come at different times, we now know because of the parable we're all going to receive what at the end? The same payment. Starting to make sense? We're all going to receive the same payment. So he makes a contract starting with Abraham. Here is chapter 15 and verse 17, where he cuts Berit, covenant. And it came to be when the sun went down at evening, and it was dark, that see a smoking oven and a burning torch, a whole bunch of smoke and a fire, just like on Mount Sinai. So this is a little picture of Mount Sinai. This is the presence of Yah. Passing between those two pieces, they cut open the animals, they open them up, the blood trails in between it. On verse 18, on the same day, Yah made a covenant with Abram, saying, I have given this land to your seed from the river of Egypt to the great river Euphrates. So this payment, this denarius, is to bless all nations and to give a particular land to his actual seed. That's the promise. That's the denarius. It was made at what time of the day? In the first hour. It was made in the first hour. Of course, the story is not just about the first hour, but here's chapter 22 and verse 15. We know that this covenant is accepted. We know the contract is accepted in the first hour. It tells us that Abraham believed Yah and it was credited to him as righteousness. But in chapter 22, Abraham is told to take your son, your only son, go to Mount Moriah and offer him up as an offering. Here's chapter 22, verse 15. And the messenger of Yah called to Abraham a second time from the heavens and said, so he stops him from putting the knife in his son. They find the ram instead. They kill the ram. His son lives. They do this on Mount Moriah, which later on is the mountain right out of Jerusalem, right where the Messiah is crucified. He says, by myself I have sworn, declares Yah, because you have done this and not withheld your son, your only son, that I shall certainly bless you. I shall certainly increase your seed as the stars of the heavens and as the sand which is on the seashore. And let your seed possess the gate of their enemies. And in your seed, I put the PDP there because this is exactly what Saul tells us. In your seed, who is the Messiah, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed because you have obeyed my voice. What's the denarius? All the nations of the earth shall be blessed in your seed, and your children will be like the stars of heaven. Millions and millions, and perhaps even billions of people over the course of the entire day, or the time that we work. You'll have all of that. But the promise made in the beginning, in the first hour, still holds true all the way to when? The last hour. That's the promise. A blessing. Now, we haven't got a whole lot of detail yet of what this involves. We're going to find out later when Messiah comes. We're talking about resurrection. For who? For all. We're talking about an eternal life. For who? For all. That's the blessing that he was referring to. When? In the first hour. Well, after the first hour, the parable tells us the next thing is the guy goes out and he finds people in the third hour. So now it's 6 o'clock has gone by, 6 to 7, 7 to 8. Now it's 8 to 9 or 8:59. Now the third hour of the day is starting, and the third hour day starts at 9 o'clock, and there's still people out at the parking lot, wherever it is, not doing anything. So he goes out and he gets them, and he makes them part of what? The contract. He brings them in to be part of this contract made in the first hour. Exodus chapter 29 and verse 39. And this is, we're talking about the house of Israel now. Let me go to the next slide here. The third hour. So if the first hour is the calling of Abraham, what's the third hour? It's the calling of Israel out of Egypt by Moses. He calls them out of Egypt and brings them to the Mount Sinai and instructs them after the Passover, after the blood, after all of that, instructs them in the Torah, in the instructions. But why does he tell them that he did that to them? Well, if you look at Exodus chapter 3, I think it is, or chapter 4, he says, Abba remembered them because of his promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He does what he does for Israel because he remembered the contract that he made in the first hour with Abraham. And now the blessing of that contract is now going to come upon his seed when? In the third hour. So it's still early in the story, but the day is starting to move along. And now in the ninth hour, he takes them out, brings them to Mount Sinai, gives them a tabernacle, gives them a priesthood. And to commemorate all of this, put your spiritual thinking caps on for a second. He tells Israel to do the following. Chapter 29, verse 39. And this is what you prepare on the slaughter place. So they have the priesthood, they have the altar, they got the tabernacle, all that stuff. He's going to tell them, okay, for you guys to come to me now, there's going to be a procedure. To come to the tabernacle, there's going to be a start of the tabernacle, and there's going to be an ending of the service of the tabernacle. One more time, there's going to be a start to the working of the tabernacle, and there's going to be an ending to the working of the tabernacle. And in between, whatever times those are, that's when my people will come to meet me. Everybody with me? This is what he tells them to do. Chapter 29, verse 39. And this is what you prepare on the slaughter place. 2 lambs, a year old, daily, continually. Prepare the one lamb in the morning, and the other lamb you prepare between the evenings. Verse 41, and prepare the other lamb, this is in the evenings, between the evening, and with it prepare a grain offering and a drink offering, as is in the morning, for a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yah continually, an ascending offering to your generations at the door of the tent of appointment before Yah, where I shall meet with you and speak with you. So the instruction becomes, there's a promise made in the first hour. Now in the third hour, he tells them, for you to come to me, you have to slaughter a lamb in the morning. Guess what time? 9 a.m. At the beginning of the third hour. He found people who were idle, and he brought them in. And you burn that lamb, but not just the lamb. You burn fine wheat, ground flour, and you also take a drink offering. There's the 2 lambs in the morning. There is about a quart or so of wine and about a quart or so of fine flour that also get offered up in the morning. You know what that is at 9 a.m.? A lamb and flour and wine? Breakfast. That's breakfast. The day to come to the tabernacle has now started. The meal offering has been given. Now people can come all day long and do their business with Yah and bring offerings and all sorts of other things. Until when? Until the evening. Until the 9th hour. And in the 9th hour, you do the same thing you did in the 3rd hour. You give 2 lambs, you bring the bread, you bring the wine, and that now closes the people's access to the altar, to Yah. What's the bread or the flour and the wine and the lambs at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon called? Now, we probably eat dinner a little bit later, but if 9 a.m. is the breakfast, 3 becomes the dinner. Now, access to coming into the place, the house, is closed. Until when? Tomorrow. And at 9, 2 lambs are offered. The flour, the grain, the wine. All day long, past the midday point, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, or the 6th hour, all the way to 3 o'clock, and then they're offered again. And then it's closed. And you keep doing it day after day after day. It says continually. Here's the same instruction out of Numbers chapter 28, verse 2. Command the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, take heed to bring my offering, my food from my offerings made by fire as a sweet fragrance to me at their appointed times. This killing of the lamb, this offering of the lamb, even though the contract was made at the 1st hour of the day, the killing of the lamb to open up the way to the house doesn't happen until the 3rd hour of the day. Now the temple's open. And it has to be at the appointed time, which means if it's an appointed time, it has to be set. You can't decide to do the morning offering at 10:30. Why? That's not an appointed time. You can't do it at 9 a.m. one day and at 10. Now, I know a lot of our schedules may work like that, or some of us with our timing may work like that, but that's not the set time. That's varying times. That's all over the place. The Moedim are set times. They're supposed to happen on the same day, all the time. So is the offering. Every morning at 9 a.m. at the 3rd hour, 2 lambs, flour, and wine. It's called the morning oblation. Is to be offered. And it goes throughout the day to the evening, and then the evening oblation. The opening and the closing of the temple. And this happens day after day after day after day. You know, when they actually open up during the day, and I think also when they close it, when they open up during the day and they give the offering, the 2 lambs, there's a psalm that they quote. The earth is Yah's and the fullness thereof. They quote that psalm. They're letting it be known as we open this all up. Everything belongs to our Elohim. Now you guys can come and you can sup and you can eat and bring your offerings, etc., 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 until the evening. Everybody with me? Okay. That happens at the 3rd hour through the 6th hour, all the way to the 9th hour, or from 9 a.m. past 12 p.m. all the way to 3 p.m. The opening and the closing of the temple service. And you can see on the picture there, it's got the lamb, should be 2 lambs, and a thing of wine, about a quart of wine, about a quart of flour. All right? The 6th hour of the day. That's the 3rd hour. So if you're following me, the 1st hour is the calling of Abraham, the making of the covenant. The 9th hour, or those who are idle because of the making of the covenant in the 1st hour, get called out, and they're told to recognize the 3rd hour, all the way to the 9th hour. Number 8 on your notes. The 6th hour. So the 6th hour is actually what time of the day to us? 12. It's not just a time of day, it's probably the hottest point of the day. I remember we used to live in Mexico when I was a kid. We lived in Nogales, which is right on the border of Mexico. You ever see, like in the cartoons and stuff or the movies, that they take a siesta at 12 o'clock? They really do. They do. At 12 o'clock in Nogales, everything shut down. Everything shut down because it is so hot, you can't do anything. So everybody goes home, they eat lunch, they just chill out, they do what they do. And then when that's passed, you go back to work. And you finish it because the midday is considered the hottest point of the day. So in this timeline that I'm hoping you're getting, if the 1st hour is the covenant, if the 3rd hour is the initiation of the opening of the tabernacle, what happens in the 6th hour at the hottest point of the day? Here is 1 Chronicles chapter 16 and verse 23. This is the story of King David. So historically, what happens? They have the tabernacle, Moses, they go through the wilderness, 40 years later, they come into the land, they go in with Joshua, they possess the land, all sorts of judges come, they get judged every 40 years, a new leader comes out, a new anointed one comes out, until finally they make themselves a king, which is Saul, but he's not a good king. And then finally the king Yah wants, David. David is the king that Yah wanted. But before David has a chance to take Jerusalem, or while David is going to take Jerusalem, something happens beforehand. The very Ark of the Covenant that should have been in the tabernacle gets stolen. Actually, it gets lost. This is the story of Phinehas and Hophni. The 2 evil priests, sons of Eli. They take the ark into battle when Yah said not to do so. Never gave them the instruction to do so. They lose against the Philistines. They all get slaughtered. And the Philistines take the Ark of the Covenant. That is the heart of the tabernacle. How can you come to the tabernacle and have your morning oblation and your evening oblation without that there? This is the heat of the day. Things are getting bad. Things are getting hot. And so what happens? Here is chapter 16, verse 23. They capture, or they take the ark back from the Philistines. Actually, the Philistines just give it up. It's another story in and of itself. But David brings it back with singing and dancing. And when you read all of chapter 16, it's the account of what they did when they got it back. He appointed certain people to be singers, certain people to play the flute, to play the drums, to play the lyres, to do, as this ark is coming into Jerusalem, the city that now belongs to him, we're to do all of these wonderful things because it's being restored to us. And here's just some of the things that they did as they restored it. Verse 23, he says, sing to Yah, who? All the earth. Wait, what was the contract in the beginning? Who gets blessed by this? All the earth. This isn't about one particular group of people. This is about all tribes. Yeah, there's a promise to one particular group of people, but this is about all tribes. The denarius is the payment for all tribes. Declare his glory among the nations, his wonders among the people, among the nations. For great is Yah and greatly to be praised, and he is to be feared above all mighty ones. Verse 28. Ascribe to Yah, O clans of the peoples. That's the same term he used to Abraham when he gave the promise. You will be a blessing to all the clans of the earth. Ascribe to Yah glory and strength. Ascribe to Yah esteem of his name. Bring an offering and come before him and bow yourself to Yah in the splendor of set apartness. Because the presence is back. The ark is back. He appoints all sorts of people as singers and musicians, etc., etc. And then he tells the priest what to do. Verse 39. And Zadok the priest, it's Zadok, and his brothers the priests, before the dwelling place of Yah, so he pitches a tent for the ark, at the high place which was at Gibeon, to offer ascending offerings to Yah on the slaughter place of ascending offerings regularly, morning and evening. So what were they not doing the whole time the ark was gone? No morning oblation, no evening oblation, nothing midday, nothing started, nothing closed. Now that it's back, what do? He starts the morning offering at the third hour, which is 9 a.m., throughout the 12th hour, or the sixth hour, or the 12th hour at 12 p.m., all the way to 3 p.m., or the 9th hour. Everybody with me? That's the morning. So David restarts what it was Moses was told to do, which had been taken away from them. Are you following me so far? I hope you're following me. For an ascending offering to Yah, slaughter place, as ascending offerings regularly morning and evening, and to do according to all that is written in the Torah of Yah, which he commanded Israel. So they restored what had been lost. But it gets lost again. It gets lost again. Because what winds up happening in the 9th hour is Babylon comes in. The people historically rebel again. The northern house is taken away. The southern kingdom's about to go into captivity. Evening is coming. What's evening? Darkness. The time when no man shall work it's not there, but it's coming. The 9th hour is the closing of the service. The 9th hour is Babylon. Here's Daniel chapter 9. We'll talk more about this on Wednesday. But here's his prayer. He realizes their time of captivity is over, and he's repenting for all that they've done. That Jerusalem's been destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of people have been killed, if not more. Hundreds of thousands of people, if not more, have been taken captivity into Babylon. Eventually, the temple is burned down. Everything is removed. It's believed Jeremiah hides the ark somewhere, which nobody has found to this date, at least nobody that said that there's any proof of it. But the temple is destroyed. All the gold and the menorahs and everything in it are taken to Babylon. It's a bad time. They're in captivity. And so now he knows the end of their captivity is coming, and Daniel begins to pray. And he says, "Oh, Yah, hear. Oh, Yah, forgive. Listen and act." He's praying for Jerusalem. He's praying for the temple, praying for his people. "Do not delay for your own sake, my Elohim, and for your city and your people who are called by your name." And while I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and presenting my supplication before Yah, my Elohim, for the set-apart mountain of my Elohim, while I was speaking a prayer. So he's praying because he knows the captivity's over. He wants Yah to forgive. He wants to restore them back to Jerusalem. He's asking, what's next for us? We're in Babylon. What's next? What are you going to do? Forgive us, Yah, forgive us. And look at what happens. While I was speaking in prayer, the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, came close to me in swift flight about the time of the evening oblation. There's no temple, but in Daniel's mind, he's still living by temple time. I guarantee you he's doing something at 9 in the morning. He's doing something at 12 in the afternoon. And now here it is 3 p.m., the evening oblation, and what's happening? An angel appears to him. Daniel's mind, I want everybody to notice this, Daniel's mind, even his actions, even though there's no temple, there's no priesthood, it's all been destroyed, all of it's gone, he is still living in his mind according to that clock. Even though he's in Babylon, he is still keeping the appointed times, even though he's in Babylon. And it tells us about the time of the evening, Gabriel, the angel, comes to him and then begins to tell him what's next for his people. We'll get into that on Wednesday. This is not about what's next. This is only about that you notice what time this happened during the evening oblation, or what should become the beginning of the closing of the service. Daniel chapter 6 and verse 10, just to prove to you my point. It says, and Daniel, so this is under Darius. He makes a law. You got to worship him for 30 days, and if you don't, you're going to get thrown into the lion's den. Of course, Daniel can't do that. And every day at what time? Let's read it. And Daniel, when he knew that the writing was signed, went home in his upper room with his windows open toward Jerusalem. He knelt down on his knees. How many times a day? 9 a.m., 12, the hottest point of the day, and the evening oblation. Morning oblation and evening oblation. Daniel knelt down and he prayed facing Jerusalem. His mind was still on the time or the appointed times of the morning and evening offering, as instructed by Moses, renewed by David, lost by Judah, and now is going to be restored again. Number 10 on your notes. Actually, no, I got one more here. Along with Daniel and Ezekiel, Ezra is there at that time. What Daniel prayed for happens. Yah begins to send the people back. But before he builds a new temple, he got to build a new city. And that's where Ezra and the book of Nehemiah come in. And when he sends Ezra the priest back, look what Ezra does as they begin to rebuild the city. And Yeshua, the son of Yosadak, and his brothers the priest, and Zerubbabel the king. This is Joshua and Zerubbabel, the ones you read about in the book of Zechariah. The son of Shealtiel and his brothers arose and built the slaughter place of Elohim of Israel to offer ascending offerings on it, as is written in the Torah of Moses, the man of Elohim. So they set the slaughter place on its stand, being afraid of the people of the lands, and they offered ascending offerings to Yah when? Both in the morning at 9, and in the evening at 3, just like Moses said, just like David did, just like Daniel had in his mind. Now Ezra here is restoring that to the people because a new temple is to be built, a new city is to be built. It's the 9th hour of the day. Mark chapter 15, number 10 on your notes. I'm sorry, I haven't been. Number 10 on your notes. Gospel according to Mark chapter 15. The opening and the closing of the service is at 9 a.m. and at 3 p.m. It is in the morning oblation and it is in the evening oblation, where there is oil, where there is flour, and where there is a lamb to be killed. Mark chapter 15, verse 22. And they brought him, Messiah, to the place Golgotha, which is translated place of a skull. And they were giving him wine mixed with myrrh to drink, but he did not take it. And when they impaled him, crucified him, stuck him on the cross, they divided his garments, casting lots for them. And when they impaled him, they divided his lots, casting lots for them, what each should take. And what time of the day was this done? And it was the third hour. What's the third hour? It is the opening up of the temple service. The earth is Yah's and the fullness thereof. And you have wine sitting there. You've got the bread of life on the cross. And you've got the Lamb of Elohim impaled. In the third hour of the day, which is the reminder to Moses and everyone who comes after of the deal, the covenant, the contract made with Abraham in the first hour of the day. Oh, is this starting to set in? Come on. This is, you got to be getting this. You can't make this stuff up. And in the third hour, they impaled him. And the inscription of his accusation was written above, the King of the Yehudim. Verse 31. Everybody's spitting at him. They're saying all sorts of things to him. They're rebuking him, all the rest of it as he's on the cross. It says, and likewise the chief priests and the scribes, mocking to one another, said, he saved others. He's unable to save himself. The Mashiach? The Son or the King of Israel? Come down now from that cross, from that stake, so that we would believe. Oh boy, you do not want to be standing next to those people on that day. And those who were impaled with him were reproaching him, the two thieves on either side. And when the sixth hour came, which is the hottest point of the day, or was the darkest point in Israel, what happens? In the sixth hour of the day, darkness came all over the land. Until when? Come on now, until when? Somebody say it out loud. Want everybody watching to hear you guys. Until what time? The ninth hour. 9, 12, 3. Third, sixth, ninth hour. When did Daniel pray? What was Daniel doing? What were all the offerings always about? This event. It was always about this event. Why? This is how all the nations and tribes and clans of the earth will be blessed through the seed of Abraham. This is it. This is the denarius. This is the payment. What do we call it? Redemption. He paid for our sins. That's the payment. That's the day's wage. And it went from the sixth hour, darkness came all over the world, until the ninth hour, 3 in the afternoon. And at the ninth hour, he cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which is translated, my El, why have you forsaken me? He's quoting Psalm 22, another prophecy, another message. And Yeshua cried out with a loud voice, and he breathed his last. The evening oblation. The morning oblation opens up the temple service. What does the evening oblation do? Closes it. Closes it. all of the symbols and the service and all of the shadows and the types are now done. And what happens to the veil? From top to bottom. Another message, another day. The temple service is now closed. The evening oblation has been offered. The Lamb of Elohim, the bread of life, and the one anointed with the wine of the Spirit, even the blood, his own blood, the wine, has been offered up at 9 a.m. and at 3 p.m. And it went all the way through the midday. This is the story. And it is wonderful in our sight. And so it winds up, chapter 28, verse 57. And when evening came, wait a second, what's coming? We're talking 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, 5 to 6. In that 3-hour window, if the ninth hour is already done, there's actually only really 2 more hours left. There's only, follow me here. If he dies in the 3rd hour, which is 3 in the afternoon, anywhere between 3 to 4 is considered the 3rd hour. How many more hours are left in a day when no man shall work? Only 2 more hours. Because if it's 4 o'clock, that's 4 to 5, 5 to 6, no more work. And then what happens? Reward is given out. Open up your ears. Open up your eyes. The 12th hour hasn't come yet. Or the 11:59 hour hasn't come yet. You're living in it. We're living in it. The last 2 hours to you and I are the last 2,000 years of history. Since the Lamb and the service was closed. And as that 12th hour is approaching, that 6 p.m. time is approaching, you and I, we haven't had to do the work that they did in that day. You didn't have to do what Abraham did. You didn't have to do what Jacob did. You didn't have to do what Isaac did. You didn't have to go through all the stuff that they went through. You didn't have to go through all the stuff Moses went through and the children of Israel went through, the slavery and the imprisonments and the beatings and all that, and then getting out and going to the mountain and seeing that. You didn't have to go through all of that. You didn't have to go through all the wandering in the wilderness. You didn't have to go through Baal Peor. You didn't have to go through all the nations around you hating you and wanting to kill you. You didn't have to go through that. You didn't have to go through the Philistines knocking at your door, knocking at your door, knocking at your door. The Assyrians coming down, knocking at your door, raising up all sorts of prophets from Gideon to Samson. You didn't have to go through that. You didn't have to go through a bad king, Saul. You didn't have to go through David and have the actual ark taken away and then get it back and then restore it. You didn't have to go through Babylon coming in and destroying the temple. You didn't have to go through that. They did. But you still get the same reward. We're still going to get the same payment. We're still going to get a denarius. And you can look at it from a human perspective and say, yeah, but what did we do? What did they do? They just got here. And now they're going to get the same reward? Yes. Because our God is a good Elohim. And he will give to whomever he wants what he wants. The contract he made with Abraham in the beginning was for all the nations, all people, until the workday is over and night comes when no man can work. Now you're starting to see it. This is a mighty, mighty story and an incredible parable. He's given us the whole story, or that portion of it. Matthew chapter 20. We're still on number 10. When evening came, there came a rich man of Arimathea named Joseph, who himself also became a taught one, a disciple of Messiah. He went and he asked for the body, and Pilate commanded the body to be given before the evening came. Messiah's work was done. It was done. Number 11 is a chart, and I know you're not going to really be able to see it, but it just reviews everything that I just said. That in the first hour, the covenant or the contract to work in the vineyard was given to Abraham. And in the third hour, Moses and the children of Israel were taken out and told to honor the third hour all the way through to the ninth hour. And then the 12th hour came between the time of King David all the way to Babylon. All the way to the time of the Messiah. It's just a chart of everything we just said. Just compare it to the other chart before. And when evening came, Matthew 20, verse 8, when no man works, came the master of the vineyard and said to his manager, call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last to the first. And when those came who were hired about the 11th hour, you know what the 11th hour is, right? It's not 10 to 11. It's not 4 to 5. It's 5 to 6. That entire hour, the last hour of work. And when those came who were hired about the 11th hour, they each received a denarius. Well, guess when you were hired? Like 11:50, or the 11th hour, 5:50 p.m. is when you got hired. I'd even say it's probably more like 5:58 in the 11th hour that you got hired. And guess what you're going to get? First, your denarius. Not my words. These are his. Isn't that a wonderful story? What a wonderful God. And unless we've got eyes to see it, you read right over it. And we have no idea. 9th, 12th, 3rd. What does that mean? It means a lot. There is nothing that he tells us, everything, like we said, was it last week or the week before? Everything is a shadow. Everything. We got to learn the shadows to understand the reality. And of course, the reality is Messiah. Now, I'm not telling you this as a doctrine, but I am sort of hinting that it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to make sure that at some point around the 3rd hour of the day, what do you think we should be doing? Thank you, Father. What do you think maybe is a good idea somewhere around lunchtime? Thank you, Father. What do you think is a good idea somewhere around 3 or so? Who knows? Maybe an angel will come flying to you real swift, give you some information about what's to come. From the 3rd hour to the 9th hour. That is Yah's word for you for this morning. See, you were all confused in the beginning. And now you're like, I got it. Makes sense. This is great stuff. this is absolutely great stuff. It took me a long time to wrap my mind around that parable. It really did. It took me a long time. And I only gave you a couple of references. There's so many other references to the third, to the ninth hour, but we just don't have time to go over all of them. But I hope this is enough to at least open up your eyes to the concept and the idea of what that parable is about. He's telling us the whole story. Now, it's not that we haven't gone through stuff. We all go through stuff. But it's kind of unlikely that there's going to be a siege laid against the Bronx by a Roman army. Unlikely. We have our own issues, our own problems, our own work to do, even if it's just for the hour or 10 minutes. And it's important that you do it. The first will wind up being last. And to me, that just makes so much sense. On that day, when we stand before him and reward is given, he's going to call us up first. And I'm sure we're going to be as happy could be. We got paid. Who isn't happy on payday? Come on. We got paid. No Social Security tax taken out. No state tax. No federal tax. No fee. None. You get paid the full day's wage. And I'm sure all the angels of heaven will be like, yeah. But you know what happens when the last person walks up to get that reward? Because you know who the last person's going to be? Father Abraham. Everyone's going to stand up. Not the angels just. Not the elders just. All of us who have been standing throughout the whole ceremony as 8 billion people just got their rewards. Listen, you go to a ceremony of graduation after 200 kids, you're like, oh, when am I getting out of here? 8 billion people or more. Finally, Father Abraham stands up. The one to whom the contract was given. And he will receive a resounding, standing applause. Because he believed Yah, and it was credited to him as righteousness. And because of it, we've all been paid for. That's going to be a good day. So while in the parable it says they were a little uneasy about the people who got it first, it's the people who come up last that are the most important. Abba, we love you. We thank you for your goodness, for your mercy, for this great and awesome plan that you have given to us. Most importantly, that you are giving us eyes to see it, that we can read it, put together the pieces, and understand not just the shadow, but understand the reality of it. Abba, in this last hour, give us strength to work, strength to be your people. Give us strength in our marriages, in our families. Give us strength in our jobs. Give us strength as citizens of this nation and of this world. Give us patience with others. Give us an anointing. Abba, let us not complain. Let us not be overcome by whatever work we have to endure and do. But know instead that others came before us who have worked during the hottest points of the day, who have worked during the day when they could not see the end of the day. And yet we can see the end of the day coming. Abba, we bless you, and we thank you for your wonderful, wonderful plan. For the seed, the son, for Messiah. In the authority of his name, we say amen and amen. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I hope that you enjoyed that message. Check it out again. Download the notes. You can get the charts if you download the notes, and they'll be a lot more clear for you to check out. Join us again on Monday morning for our Mannas. Of course, Wednesday and Friday got neat stuff coming up for you on Wednesday, so don't forget that. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Sabbath day. Say with me, everybody, Shabbat. Peace.